$10,000 in the current contract compared to the prior contract, which is within the margin of error. So if those are really the only two, I didn't include the grant from the state, for example, but that stays the same. So that was really my question, just budgetarily, because we've gotten, at one point we were told it was going to cost us more, and at another point we were told it was going to cost us less. So I think it was just confusion in the board among, is the current contract more or less than what we were paying before? And I think we're a little bit more, but not way out of line. The only other thing I would add in the chart you have in here with the number of positions and the hours for this is for refuse collection. And we're talking about the automation and the trucks, because originally we were assuming that was going to save time and hours. And I think as I read it, what you're saying is we couldn't really tell because there was, I don't know, someone out on injury or training or blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I think we should be able to take out, separate out, like certainly FMLA, vacation, sick hours, we should be able to separate out. I can see training, you might have to you might not have a code for training time. But,
and I think I did, based on that, Mark and I did talk about that, and we're going to explore, how we can modify our current payroll system and the codes that are used so that we can filter out some of those forces, if you will, to try to come to a better answer about what kind of efficiencies we've achieved with the use of the automated equipment.
yeah, and I think it's going to be important, not just for this issue, but more generally, like what really is the cost of our services. So we do, you guys might need to do a little more thinking, as you have already, about how you're coding hours and tracking hours in order to give us the, what we need to be able to see what the services are actually costing.
Well, is there a way to take out those? I read the memo and it says, because the FMLA is put in the same account, but I would assume there's a coding that Mark does that you can just withdraw it.
FMLA is coded, that's very easily done. What we can't do, because of how we tracked the hours in the past, is say, this was a training hour, or this was, instead of
And the reason I asked,
estimating 5 hours a day, it took 6 hours because this person was relatively new to the route. And those are the sorts of things that we can't.
right, so I don't know what big difference, so the only reason I'm asking is, we spent a lot of money, we put a very large investment. Is it a 5-year contract? I don't remember. Okay, 5-year contract. We did in partner Whitefish Bay. They did the exact same time they were going for automation. I know we chose the alley route, which would decrease our efficiencies a little bit from full automation without alley service. But they were able to reduce positions by 2, and I'm sure they had training hours. I mean, we took on the same equipment, and they're using the arm in the alleys, so I don't understand why.
Their trucks don't operate in the alleys, they're too big.
So I've seen them in the alleys, but I will confirm. Okay. So anyways, I just feel that training, that's to be expected, but there should have been some cost savings for an investment of, what was it, $2 million?
Agreed. If we had a normal personnel here, we would have seen that. I mean, the point of this was try to, explain the reasoning that we didn't achieve the anticipated cost savings. And that reasoning was almost entirely due to staff turnover. And or vacant, that led to vacant positions, that led to us shuffling people and not being able to consistently put the same people on the refuse collection tasks.
So Trustee Amenta brought up in budget, going to a cycle, and rather than, I remember it was like a 3-day pickup, but it was extending that pickup if needed, so that less people were needed, but you had more days to do the garbage pickup. Can we explore that one day again? I just remember that discussion in budget.
I don't remember.
What's, is it a 3-day cycle now?
I think one of the things that we proposed was that if you did not wish to fill that third refuse collection position, that we would look at reordering our routes so that rather than completing collections in 3 days,
Yes.
we would have to do it in 4 with 2 people.
Yes. So it would be interesting to know, maybe that's how Whitefish Bay got down to, 2 positions. I'm not saying lay off anyone, I'm just, as we move forward with organizational, analysis, it's just something that I caught on to during budget.
But from the residents' perspective, how would that change their frequency of pickup?
Well, that was, I'm trying to remember exactly. You would still have garbage pickup once a week. What it would have significantly impacted was our ability to do yard waste collection. So that in season would probably have gone from once a week to once a month, perhaps twice a month. And it would also have impacted holiday schedules, because now by only collecting 3 days a week, when we have a holiday that falls over 2 work days, Christmas, New Year's, it allows us to continue weekly pickup. If we were doing routes 4 days a week, Christmas and New Year's, we would either have to look at, paying someone holiday time to pick up on a week. I mean, those would be one of the things we'd have to work through.
And just for yard waste, do we have seasonal? I keep looking at the charts of accounts, and is that just for leaf collection? We pay seasonal staff, right? We pay a service for that. We pay
No.
temp help, or for, what is
Yard
it?
waste is performed by our collectors.
Okay, and then leaf is performed by the seasonal.
Half of the leaf staff is seasonal supplements, yes.
Trustee Marr?
We had a question on page 3 on the chart at the bottom, recycling drop-off center, it has it as $3,143 a month, is that?
Yeah, because we were being charged by the container,
Okay.
and when we wrote the RFP, I listed that as a lump sum.
Just wanted to-
And to be completely honest, I think $413 was a typo.
Wait, can you say
But
that
they're
again?
contractually bound, so we luck out.
I think the last agenda item was, when we said we wanted to talk about this, when it was coming, we were talking about that fee, and I asked Rebecca for the contract to be attached. I don't see it, but I'm sure you have a copy. Is it in there? I might not have printed it.
There's lots of great hyperlinks in here.
Oh, okay. I know, I got the printed one, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So anyways, but it does note in the memo that it is not stated in our contract that they can charge that fee, so I assume we're not paying it?
We are not paying.
Okay, and we're just not going to.
Well, I'm working to set up a meeting with Waste Management to review that, to review a couple of other service-related concerns that we have, that, just sort of daily operational things. And also to talk to them about our ability to look at utilizing different containers of the drop-off center, perhaps as a way to look at eliminating some of those contamination issues. Yeah, they're not, it's a regular, I don't get any follow-up from them, I don't get any response.
Is that something that's coming back to us, sorry, is this coming back to us next?
That will come back to you, I believe, the next. Well, dependent upon, ideally, I'd like to have that conversation with Waste Management so I can present to you some feasible alternatives. So I really need to talk to them before I bring that back to you.
And did everyone get the memo from Josh or the email outline, or was it just us? I can't remember. I don't mind.
I got it.
The last
I got it.
meeting.
From Conservation Commission Committee?
Yeah, last meeting.
I'm sorry, I got a lot of emails.
I know, it's like, I don't remember, I thought it went to
And I do
everyone.
have a number of correspondence from
So
Josh.
anyways, but that's what you're talking about is Josh had come out from Conservation Committee and then assessed it and said that we have one big container and then we don't have any trash cans, so if you do like little ones for cardboard.
Well,
and then-
that
and
was
then-
something that Josh and I came to together.
Yes, okay, and then a garbage can, so that if you have something that doesn't fit in one of those, then you have a place to put it, so. Did everyone get that? If not, I'll make
It was
sure.
with the last mail.
Okay.
Meeting.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
So we will be coming back with that information as we revisit the drop site after a meeting of which I look forward to in place
Me
management.
too.
Excellent. My last question, on page 3, it talks about staff members performing refuse collection duties. Are we making that much more waste? Because from 2015, we had 5, and now we have 9.
No, that's just an attempt to illustrate the effects of turnover. And in any given year,
You mean like the bodies?
the number of bodies that shuffle through, yes.
Okay, so same amount of hours. Well, the hours went up too, though.
Right, and that's due to someone being, when we're training, you have double the hours.
Yeah.
When someone is out sick, you have that person being charged to refuse, and you have their replacement being charged to refuse. So that's why the hours go up.
Leanne, thank you for the preparation of the memo. I don't know about any of you, but it was a really great, well, I enjoyed learning about recycling and refuse.
Yes, thank you.
But I was like, I really got into it, and I appreciate you taking the time to take me through the journey of where the village has been.
And
Because it was a lot, it was a lot.
And to trustee Amenta's point, the request was, based on the end of the year financials, are we over, are we under, are we at budget? So if we could have a fiscal note that just clearly states, this is where we're at, and this is what we budgeted, that would be helpful in a request like that. Because there was a lot of numbers, but it didn't get too succinct. We're on tap, we're slightly over. So, okay, thank you so much. Anybody else have anything? There's no action, correct?
No.
Okay. And for the next agenda item, it is 9C, consideration of future transportation and parking related requests.
We continue to get requests related to transportation and parking. And when we met as a group the last time, there was some discussion at the end of that meeting with the motion, of which the board had mentioned that they had wanted to revisit the requests that you were evaluating on Kensington following conclusion of the parking and transportation analysis. So I wanted to bring that back to the group because I could spend a lot of time with staff time working on different things and evaluating and bringing them to on a very regular basis. Now with the attention that's been given to transportation and parking, because people are very adamant of wanting to also get their request heard and action made on it. I've been verbalizing and reinforcing one of the components of the transportation and parking analysis is to develop a process of how this would work. We've been absent of having a more formalized process as a village for this for a period of time. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to get some barometer of standard, right? Because we know that sometimes, even when we think we're doing the best thing, because of the small nature of the grid here, it may have a negative corresponding impact that we would have never forecasted on.
Like stop signs. I think we talked about that a lot.
Yep.
last year. Stop signs.
So, the village has been here for a very long time. And there just so happens to be many of the intersections and places that have also had the very same traffic control environment for decades. So when requests come in, the staff typically sit back and we ask ourselves the question, what's changed? Is it one instance? Is it one person? Has there been an environmental change that has caused this that can be specifically targeted and measured? And in many instances there is not. However, there's someone who really desires to have something done in that location. So as we sat back in reflection, wanted to come back in and really check in with the board because I am not, and listening to what was put a part of that recommendation from the last time, but it's very realistic that you will have 2 to 3 of these in front of you each month. So before I know that we're embarking on a new process that we, the village, have never gone through, which is a parking transportation analysis. And so I wanted to have this discussion with you up front in terms of how we're going to proceed with pending requests.
Something you said in the agenda meeting, I just want to share with the trustees. One way to consider this is if nothing has changed. So we were just saying, well, if someone's bringing forward, I don't want parking in front of my street. in front of my house. But nothing's changed, the conditions haven't changed, so Rebecca was saying those types of requests, there's no new bus stop, there's no new safety concern that has never been there. And so should we put those type of requests on hold because there's anyone, like someone saying it's not safe, I said, well, is it a safety concern, meaning did a kid get hit in a crosswalk? And that would, maybe the board would want to see that right away because we might want to implement a new crossing guard or a new, there may be that's a change of condition for safety, but everyone will say it is a safety concern because parking in front of my house makes safety less. Well, but that condition's never changed. There's no change there. So that was some distinction that you had made, and I thought, that makes sense in my mind, where if it's just people coming and wanting parking changes in front of their homes, and the conditions haven't changed, maybe we put those things on hold for 6 months?
I was just saying, that makes sense to me. It strikes me as, the whole point of the parking